other universe?
Because that's what I'm telling you. How do you know the laws of the same in the other universe?
No, you're saying it's a prediction.
No, we don't know. But what we can say, one second. Basic quantum mechanics and theory of relativity.
What has quantum mechanics to do with this?
I'm telling you. If you let me say that.
Okay, go on.
Basic quantum mechanics predicts
what?
That there are multiple instances of the universe that can be formed in an eternally inflating universe.
Based on what? Which part of quantum mechanics postulates this? What you just said?
Which part of quantum mechanics? Because quantum particles come into existence spontaneously and go away.
Is it from nothing?
We don't know.
It is not from nothing.
We don't know.
Have you heard of the quantum? Wait. Have you heard of the quantum vacuum?
Yes, I have.
Is the quantum vacuum nothing or something?
No, the quantum vacuum is just the quantum vacuum.
Is it nothing or is it something?
We don't know, but we just know that.
Look, Puneet, with all due respect, if you don't know, then don't delve into it.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Wait a minute, Puneet, wait a minute. If you don't know what the quantum, wait a minute, let me finish. If you don't know what the
then enlighten me. Tell me what the quantum vacuum is.
No, wait a minute. Before you ask me what the quantum vacuum is, you made a statement that it comes into existence from.
Quantum particles come into existence.
From where?
From nothing.
No.
Then where do they come from?
You cannot say nothing. I'm telling you that any scientist who says that particles come from nothing are not scientists.
Okay, then where
because no scientist makes that assertion. Anything comes from nothing.
No, they come into spontaneous existence.
Yeah, from where?
It doesn't matter.
It does matter because that was my question.
Okay, so I'm telling you that we.
Don't say you. Tell me what the scientists said.
They say we don't know where they come from.
Okay, that is better. You know that is better because what you just said a minute ago was from nothing. That is a fallacy.
First time I didn't say it was nothing. Second time, on the second go around, the word slipped out of the mouth. But
okay,
we don't know where they come from.
Let's not have any more slips. So one thing we know is not from nothing. Okay?
No, we don't we don't know that.
Okay, scientifically, can something come from nothing?
It doesn't matter.
It does.
No.
Because if something is a fallacy.
But that's what I'm trying to say.
Put it. Now you're going into a field which is non-scientific.
No, but that's what I'm trying to
say.
Can
anything come from nothing?
No, we don't know. Again, we don't know. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Let me take you a step back.
But no, what I'm trying to say is
let me take a step back because what you have just made, there is another fallacy. When you say we don't know, it implies that there is a possibility it can come from nothing.
Of course it can.
Good. Now let me ask you this. What is your definition of nothing?
I cannot define nothing. Nothing would be as
very
simple as a vacuum of space.
No, vacuum is still something.
Exactly.
Okay. So what is nothing?
Nothing is nothing.
Okay, let me ask you another question. No. You do not define the word with a word. Have you looked at the dictionary? The words have a definition.
Okay.
In the definition, the word itself.
With the dictionary meaning of nothing, I can probably pull that up. But then that is.
Well, we are talking English, aren't we?
But you aren't getting.
I want you to give me an English definition of the word nothing.
Okay.
Shall I give you?
Yeah, please.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. For me, the meaning of nothing is the absence of everything. Is that good enough for you?
Yeah.
Good. Alhamdulillah. Now the next question. Does nothing exist?
Again, we really don't know.
I'm saying it doesn't exist. It's a concept.
Okay, fine.
Do you agree with that as well?
No, I don't agree with
you. You don't agree with it?
I agree.
Okay, so in other words, in the universe, you can find nothing somewhere.
We don't know. Again, you're making assertions.
You're getting worse, honestly. I thought you were an intelligent man earlier.
I'm willing to listen to what you're
No, but if you say, look,
I don't have to agree with
Puneet, do you agree with the definition I gave you?
Yeah.
Okay. So if something, listen.
Way is correct.
No, it's not roundabout way. It is very specific. Okay. The absence of everything. Okay. Now, if it's an absence of everything, yes, that means does it exist?
Again, that's an assertion that can't be made either which ways.
I'm making the assertion that.
But, okay,
let me ask you. Let me ask you.
One second. But why? Okay, I agree that you're making the assertion, and this is what you believe.
But you wait. In order for me, no. In order for us to communicate with certain words, we need to be on the same page. For example, do you believe in infinity?
Yes, there are several kinds.
Does infinity exist?
Yes.
Or is it a concept?
A concept can exist.
Oh my God, I don't think we're getting anywhere with this.
A concept can exist.
A concept can exist? So basically, a green elephant.
Does maths exist?
Wait.
As simple as
a
that.
green elephant who's flying in the sky is a concept. Does it exist?
But does maths exist? Maths is a concept.
Maths is abstract.
It's a concept.
Numbers are abstract.
Yeah, it's a concept, but it does exist. It has real world implications.
No. When you say exist, hold on. Now we have to define the term exist.
Okay.
Because what you're saying is about abstract numbers.
Yeah.
Numbers are abstract.
Okay.
Do they exist in the real world?
No. But
thank you.
But the effect
at least that you agree. Okay, so now.
But the effect of numbers exists.
Wait a minute. I'm not talking about the effect of the numbers. Effect of the numbers means what? Are you telling me? If,
numbers are
listen. If you are you telling me that if there is a society somewhere in the world who knows nothing about maths.
Yes.
Yes? And let's say they don't even use numbers. Yes?
Yes.
Does it affect them?
Of course it does.
How?
Because numbers are intrinsic.
But they don't use numbers.
It doesn't matter if they use numbers or not. The effect of the numbers is there.
What is the effect on them? Give me one thing that affects them. Go on.
Everything from the percentage of.
They don't use percentage.
It doesn't matter.
I'm telling you about a scenario.
Still works.
Puneet, I'm telling you a scenario.
That's
Okay,
what-
give me one example that affects them. Go on.
Everything from the houses that they make, cutting the wood, they know the dimensions that they're going to use. They have an intrinsic idea of how to make a house so that it doesn't collapse. Everything is maths.
They don't live in houses, they live in trees. Then what?
Okay, which tree's branch looks strong enough? That's all.
That's got nothing to do with numbers.
Of course it is. Of course it is. The thickness of the.
Do they measure it?
numbers doesn't
They
matter.
just jump on it and see, is it big enough?
They know it.
You know, I can play this game all day. One thing you need to realize is this. There are certain things which are abstract. There are certain things which are concepts.
Yes.
They don't exist in the real world. They might,
But they
yes.
affect-
I agree, I agree,
affect
I agree. For example, in a formula, in maths, you can use the term which is infinite. They have a symbol for it. They have a symbol for zero. Is there anything which is zero in the world?
But it doesn't matter. It's still.
It does matter. I'm telling you real world implications. There are certain things you use in order to communicate. Yes? Like for example, the term zero, like the term infinity, like the term, what's the term that we were using? Yeah, nothing. These things we use in order for us to communicate. But if I asked you, does nothing exist? The answer to that is very simple. No, because it's a concept. Good. So now we're getting somewhere. So now the question is this. If nothing doesn't even exist, can it bring about something which does exist in the real world?
But who said nothing brought about something?
That was a question. It was not a statement. It's a question to you. If something doesn't even exist like nothing, can it bring into existence something?
But again,
Like your cap, for example.
But again, what I'm saying is, in what context is the question being asked?
Okay, from nothing to something. Very
Think at
simple.
the start of the universe, Big Bang.
No, I'm not talking about these. I'm talking about anything. Let's say an atom. Do you believe an atom is something, right?
Yes.
Can an atom come from nothing?
Apparently it does.
Where?
When quantum particles.
Oh, there he goes again.
Again.
You yourself said it's not from nothing. It's a slip of tongue.
Okay.
I'm asking, can it come from nothing? Not from somewhere you don't know.
Okay. Fine.
So once again,
Coming from something.
can it
Fine.
come from nothing?
Okay. No. Fine.
Alhamdulillah, finally. It's so difficult to get to you, Puneet. Simple terms sometimes, you know, unfortunately. But alhamdulillah, at least we are there. Now the question is this. Do you believe the atom is something?
Yes.
It cannot come from nothing. The atom is microscopic. We cannot even observe it with our naked eye, right? We need a special kind of microscope. Yes? An atomic microscope, is that what it's called? We need a special kind of microscope. The universe is massive. If the atom cannot come from nothing, can the universe come from nothing?
In the roundabout way that you're.
Don't give me roundabouts. I don't like beating around the bush.
No, but that's what
No, I want specific answer to the specific
But
question.
that's what I'm saying. If,
What?
If the way that you are defining nothingness.
No, which you agreed with me.
No, but then.
Don't say you. Don't put it on me. I'm asking the question to you. Don't try to put it on me.
From something. From.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so it's not from nothing.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, fine.
Now the question is this. What is this something?
We call it the singularity.
What is the singularity? Did the singularity come from nothing?
We don't know.
Can it come from nothing?
We don't know.
Can it come from nothing?
Again, we don't know.
Okay, how can you say we don't know?
Because you are.
We have already
talking
agreed
about
to-
things that we don't know about.
Puneet, you already agreed to the principle something doesn't come from nothing.
But that is valid today. We don't know what will happen.
Even
in the
yesterday,
future.
even yesterday something is something.
Of course it was valid. Yesterday,
Listen,
of course it was valid.
listen, Puneet,
There are so many things
something-
that are valid today which are not valid 50 years ago.
Puneet, I'm not talking about discoveries. I'm talking about something.
Exactly.
Is something yesterday and today? Or was it only something yesterday?
But then we don't know what is going to be in the future.
Okay, is the infinite, sorry, I'm talking about the future, for God's sake. I'm asking you about what you yourself postulated.
Yeah.
You mentioned the singularity.
Yes.
What is the singularity?
Singularity is, in layman's terms, where everything in the universe that we see was compacted into a single infinitesimally dense point.
Is it nothing?
Singularity. It's something. It's everything. In fact, the singularity is
Good.
everything.
So something and everything is not nothing. Do you agree?
The singularity is everything.
I agree, but it cannot be nothing, can it?
Again, okay, fine. Let's go on.
Because it exists. It existed at one point, right? Anything that exists in reality cannot be nothing.
Okay, fine.
Good. So now, please answer the question. Can something or everything in your case compacted into the singularity, can this singularity come from something that doesn't exist like nothing?
Again, we don't know what. Probably no. That's why.
What's wrong with this guy, honestly? You're not being sincere now. Either that or you don't understand the question.
No, I understand the question.
Okay, the question once again. Do you agree with this principle that something cannot come from nothing?
Okay, supposing it came from something.
No, supposing. I want to get to the bottom of this.
No,
Please, either you agree or disagree with this principle.
Because your question is framed in such a way.
No, put it. There's a different question.
No.
Listen to the question first. Do you agree with this principle? Something tangible, can it come from nothing? Something. I'm not talking about infinity. I'm not talking about singularity or universe
Something
or
has to
atom.
come from something.
Okay, this is the principle we are going to work on.
Okay.
Okay?
Go on.
You said the singularity is a something.
Okay.
Do you stick with the principle that it cannot come from nothing?
Now that's where it breaks down.
Which is what?
That's where it breaks down.
What breaks down?
At the end of the day, what you're talking about is causality. Something has to come from something else, right?
It's called causality.
Causality.
And what is causality?
Yeah, causality is something, cause and effect.
Anything that has a beginning
Yes.
has a cause.
Again, yes.
Do you agree with that principle?
Yes.
Yes?
It's called causality.
Yes.
But then but the point is, as soon as you reach the singularity, causality breaks down.
No, it doesn't.
Of course it does.
How?
Of course it
How?
does. All the laws of physics stop working at that
Why?
point in time. Because
Why?
we don't know. We are missing something in our picture of the universe.
So you're saying in order for something to exist, you need to have the physical laws.
No, you don't. I'm not saying
So
that
why
at
does it
all.
break down? Because you mentioned the laws of
Because
physics.
we don't understand beyond that.
Ah, so say like that. I don't know. Instead of saying
What have I been saying? We don't know.
no. You said, in fact, I had to break it down to you what nothing means.
I've been saying we don't know since when?
Okay, so in other words, where the singularity came from, we don't know. Is that what you're saying? Good. Now the question which you haven't answered still is, I understood your point, we don't know. And if you stopped there, that would have been fine. The question that I asked you was very specific. Is there any probability or possibility, yes, that it came from nothing?
Again, we don't know.
Okay. Remember the principle you agreed to earlier?
Yes, but that works in this universe, this current iteration.
Oh, wait. So you're telling me the singularity is in a different universe?
No, we don't know. We
Which
don't know.
which universe is it in? Is it in?
I mean,
Are you telling me?
say nothing can come.
Yeah.
Something can't come from nothing. It doesn't matter where you put that. It's
Exactly.
But that's what I'm
You see,
saying.
Mark got the point. You didn't get the point, unfortunately.
You're trying to
Y'all are
change it.
missing the wood for the trees. You're looking at causality on a very, very small scale.
We have
How
to.
it works in
We
the
have to look at
universe.
every single scale.
But what I'm trying to say is that at the singularity, causality breaks down.
You know what? You don't even know if the singularity is in our universe or not.
There is no place that the singularity was.
Or the singularity wasn't in any place.
It was everywhere. That's what the point I'm trying to make.
Where is everywhere?
Everywhere.
Okay, you're telling me space existed before singularity?
Space and time were created at the point.
No, but you said it existed everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. There is no space or time for it to exist in. It is space and time, the singularity.
So can anything, listen, I'm using the term anything for something. Can something or anything exist without time and space?
Again, singularity exists without time and space. Black holes exist without time or space.
Really?
Of course they do.
Black holes exist without time and space?
Yes.
So where are the black holes? Are they in our universe or outside?
They're in our universe.
Does our universe have space?
Yes, it does.
So you said it's without space and time.
Yeah, but singularity.
Make up your mind, man.
Again,
Okay. So you have used the term. Wait. You have used the term singularity, and you have agreed it's not nothing. Am I right? The singularity is not nothing. It is something.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Now the question which you seem, I think Mark has understood this, but you somehow haven't understood yet. If the singularity is something, three possibilities exist. It created itself, it came from nothing, or something caused it. Which one is true in this case?
As far as we can tell, it created itself.
Oh, it created itself. Who is we, by the way? Who is we? Again, you're using the same language as the guy before you.
Alan Guth is under inflation.
So what does Alan Guth say? Did he say it created itself?
Yeah, it spontaneously comes into existence.
But what do you say? What do you mean by spontaneous?
Spontaneous means
Does it require some material for it to exist?
Spontaneous.
Is there any evidence for this?
That's the hypothesis, and it works.
Okay, so there's no evidence for it. In other words, is a speculation. Can we call it a speculation? It is.
No, you cannot call
Okay,
it
so when you say
speculation.
spontaneously came from nothing,
Yes.
that means you are breaking the principle of something coming from nothing.
Exactly why.
In other words, you're telling me.
I'm not saying.
Wait.
that.
In other words, you're going back to the quantum physics. The quantum mechanics. Am I right?
Possibly. We don't
Okay.
know.
So once again, do the what do you say? The quantum matter come from nothing?
Again, we don't know.
So say I don't know. Don't say from nothing.
But I've been saying we don't know all this while.
No, you said there's a possibility it came from nothing. Okay.
You're the one who's trying
So
to-
remember I gave you the three options. You said it created itself.
Yeah.
Yes. So in other words, it's got some sort of consciousness.
God, there doesn't need to be a God for the universe to come into existence.
So how does
If
it?
you're saying it created.
Let me get this
itself,
right. Something which.
don't need a God for
Wait. I didn't ask you about God yet. Okay, so don't jump to
You
God.
just brought in the question.
I did not bring in God.
You just said
Did I use the term God? I didn't use the term God. So anyone, I don't know, you got some sort of
Maybe I thought you-
something going on in the head there. Maybe it's God whispering, telling you to say God. In other words, your fifth eye is telling you, say God. Your natural disposition. Because you see, when you say something caused itself, it's like me saying a robot invented itself. Is that even logical?
Doesn't matter. The
It
universe
does,
doesn't need
because
to be
to me a singular. Wait. To me, a singularity is more complex than a single cell molecule. It is. So if something single cell cannot create itself, how can something more complex than it create itself?
Why can't a single cell create itself?
Show me why it created itself. Go on.
But that does not mean that it didn't.
Well, you are speculating again.
No,
I'm
no.
telling you, go based on facts. You keep saying
Yes,
it
we-
can possibly, but then you can't define. So you cannot show us when, how, and where such an event occurred.
No,
All you can say is
we can replicate
speculate
a lot
about
of
it.
the process in the lab now.
Really? Show me a single lab which has produced, even forget about a single cell, even the mitochondria in the cell by itself in a lab.
We don't need to create mitochondria. We can create the basic building blocks, and we.
Show me which scientist has created.
We've created
No, no.
RNA in the lab.
Show me where it has created
I'll have to look them up, but this is
mitochondria, which is basically
So
the
why the mitochondria? Why this fixation of the mitochondria?
The mitochondria in the cell?
The mitochondria is not important.
What is the
important
function? Do you
thing
know?
is to be- Yeah, I know what the,
Okay,
it's
what-
the powerhouse of the cell.
okay. Can the cell work without a powerhouse?
Not the
That is why it's important.
Not the multicellular organisms. We can't.
No, I'm talking about single cell. Can a single cell
single
function?
cell- yeah,
Wait.
single cell
Can a
can-
single cell function without a
Yes,
mitochondria?
of course they can.
Which one?
There are so many.
Give me one single cell doesn't have.
world.
Okay.
An amoeba doesn't have a mitochondria.
Who said an amoeba doesn't have mitochondria?
Of course it doesn't.
A single cell.
Lots of single cells.
A single cell doesn't have
In fact,
mitochondria.
most of the life on Earth does not have mitochondria.
So what does a single cell have then?
It
To run it?
it has its own ways of making energy. and
What is its
storing
powerhouse?
energy. I don't know. That
I don't know. And then he's so confident that it doesn't have a
You're
mitochondria.
patently wrong on
Okay,
this.
you
Most
know what?
of life on Earth does not have mitochondria. For that matter, even plants don't have mitochondria. They have chlorophyll and chloroplast, which is not mitochondria.
You're saying plants don't have cells?
Again, what was the question? Does it have mitochondria?
I'm
No,
saying
it doesn't.
every cell.
Most of life
Why
on
shouting?
Earth,
Calm down.
Most life on Earth does not
Why
have
getting emotional?
mitochondria.
Calm down.
Because you're twisting my words.
I'm not
a lot.
twisting anything. I'm asking you, a single cell, has any lab created it?
No, we haven't gotten that
Good.
far.
So don't
yet.
say they can do it.
But
Because my question was, listen,
But
my,
we've
my,
created the other
no,
parts.
my question was this.
We've created
If a
protein
single cell,
fragments, we've created RNA, we've created DNA.
Punit, can you calm down? I asked you, a single cell, is it more complex or less complex than a singularity? And you said no, the singularity is more complex. So a single cell cannot be created in the lab. Can they create a singularity in a lab?
They can.
Who can? Which scientist has done it? You don't know the name of the scientist?
They create.
Yeah, give me the name. Sam. Sam what? You just made it up. Nice try. That's why you shouldn't speak with little knowledge, because it's dangerous.
Okay, you know what?
Okay,
We'll have to
you find out if any scientist has created a singularity in a lab. Because you see, anyone who says it can create itself, then you should show us where, when, and not speculate. Because what you have just done so far, I had a tough time defining nothing to you and defining infinity to you, that these things don't exist, they are concepts. For you to say they create themselves, then there is more evidence that you have to provide. Okay, don't just say they have done it, they have this, speculation after speculation.
That's the thing that you're doing. You are just speculating.
I asked the question. I did not speculate. Look, anything I said is something. In fact, he agreed on the principle that something cannot come from nothing. He agreed on that.
I'm kind of believing him right now.
You're saying the singularity is complex, then show us how did it create itself. Because all you're doing is now just making a statement without substantiating it.
Without a proof.
Okay, so basically, look, unless you substantiate it, there's no point in. All right, take care, Punit. Anyway, look, at least he was. No, guys. We give him credit for being honest. He had been honest most of the time. Sometimes it's a bit difficult because when you come from a point of view, from a background which you have been, in other words,
Indoctrinated.
yeah, in a way indoctrinated by so many people, by reading so many books about science. Because you see, when a scientist looks into evidences and probabilities and theories and postulations, one thing that doesn't exist, what they do not factor in, is God. You go to any peer-reviewed journals, as soon as you mention anything about God, they'll just check it out. Because they have already made up their mind. This is a cognitive dissonance among the scientists that they cannot get over it. They do not know that this is one of the possibilities. Yes? They do not even factor that in. They say, no, as soon as you mention God, is it. We are not dealing with it. And those people who bring it in, they are being not only harassed, but they are being discriminated against. And I don't mean only Christians and Muslims and Jews who are scientists. I also mean agnostics and some other people who might bring it in. As soon as you try to factor in God, immediately it kind of just switches off. Okay? No, you can't. So what I'm saying is that anyone who studies science and doesn't use all the different possibilities, then they cannot be true to themselves. Because as soon as you basically discount one possibility from the many others, then you already are limiting your research by using that thing which you discount as being a possibility. Simple as that. So alhamdulillah, the scientists will use certain factors which they can measure, which they can look into, which they can explain, but what they have a limitation is something of the metaphysics which they cannot explain. Hence, they do not believe in God, they do not believe in things, but unfortunately, they cannot get away from the one metaphysical aspect which they all believe that they have. It is called consciousness. Consciousness is immaterial. They cannot measure it, they cannot observe it, they cannot define it even. Yes? But they all agree that they have it. Otherwise, without that, they won't be able to think. Rationality, logical discussions, all these things go out the window without your consciousness. Without your ability to know that you exist, and without your ability to know and acknowledge the reality. Because the thing is, how will you know something from the real world from something which is fictional? You have to have certain faculties and certain criteria to distinguish between reality and between fiction, between reality and non-reality. Without that, you won't know what is real otherwise. And that can only be possible with your faculty of reasoning, of logic, and specifically your consciousness. Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Why you didn't answer my question?
Because you are not worth it.